Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out exactly how to do just that right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So it has been said that our school year is like a marathon and not a sprint. And that's pretty true. But I think that the last 6 or 7 or 8 weeks of a school year, that is really where we do have this school year turn into a sprint. And you've heard it said, the 100 days of May. I have a coaching client who at her school, they refer to it as Maycember because it's so busy. And, sometimes I think that our school year at this time of the year, the end of April, May into that last day of school in late May or early June, that it not only does it feel like a sprint, but it feels like you're getting to the finish line of the 100-meter dash in the Olympics. And when you get there, you find out that now it's a 120-meter dash. Like the finish line keeps moving, but you have to keep sprinting. Because over the next 6 weeks, your calendar is packed. And, the emotions in the school are high. There are people that are stressed out because they're responsible for events and activities and trips. People are tired. You're tired. Everything feels urgent because you've got these concerts and award ceremonies and graduation and field trips, and the parents are still upset about something, and the teachers are fatigued and they're tired. And the reality of the situation is that the last 6 weeks of our school year really, really matters. And I think it matters more than sometimes we think, because sometimes we're just trying to get through it. We're just trying to survive it. But this stretch will help to determine how our teachers feel heading into summer and how our families feel heading into summer. And that can impact their happiness level and and also student retention, and how you feel when the last teacher workday happens and things start to settle down a little bit. When you start, quote unquote, your summer, and I know that summer looks differently for everyone that's listening to this podcast, but how you feel when the school year is over is dictated by how it ends. So on today's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, I'm going to teach you the 3 keys to having a strong finish to this school year. And I have a quick question for you. What is the gap between the life that you want and the life that you have? And then how big is that gap? So for instance, the life that you want, maybe it's to feel happy and energized and productive and fulfilled at school, and then to feel present and happy and engaged and rested at home. Maybe that's the life you want. But if the life you have is that you're stressed out and frustrated and overwhelmed at school and feeling guilty at home because your family gets what's left of you at the end of the day, then there's a pretty big gap between the life you want and the life you have. And I can help you close that gap, because leadership coaching is all about helping you get clear on the life that you want and then helping you get that, helping you close the gap between the life you have, the life you want. There's a gap there. And right now I have one coaching spot open, and I want to offer it to you. And the way that begins is just with a 20-minute free conversation on Zoom. No obligation, just hear more about you and your school and how things are going and what you're struggling with, what you want. And you can just email me to set that up, mark.o.minkus@gmail.com. Or if you want to check out testimonials from 24 current and former clients, if you want to see more about the packages and pricing and things like that, you can go to theprivateschoolleader.com/coaching. But the bottom line is this: what is the gap between the life that you want and the life that you have, how big is that gap? And I can help you close that gap. So I'd love to work with you. I'd love to talk to you more about that. And I want to give you a free gift, as I usually do. This time of year, I just mentioned all the stuff that we're dealing with. Sometimes the last thing that we need is to have a meeting with an upset parent, but sometimes that happens. And so I've got a free guide here, a PDF for you called The 7 Steps to Having Successful Meetings with Upset Parents. This is an 11-page PDF that gives you step-by-step plan to have better meetings with the parents at your school, especially when they're upset. And I believe that every good coach has a game plan and every good teacher has a lesson plan, but too many of us don't have a plan when we sit down to meet with an upset parent, and especially at this time of year if you're worn out and distracted. Well, I'm going to give you a plan, and you can grab this over at theprivateschoolleader.com/meeting. That's the 7 steps to having successful meetings with upset parents. Is free for you over at theprivateschoolleader.com/meeting. So I said I was going to give you 3 keys to having a strong finish to this school year. So I want to jump right into it. Key number 1 is energy management. Key number 1 is energy management. And I really think that leadership at this time of year is more about energy management than anything else. Because I really think that at this time in the school year that your biggest problem is not really your time, that your biggest issue is your energy. And so why is that? What can we do about it? How can I help you to manage your energy? Okay, the first thing that I want to tell you about energy management, this key number 1, is that your energy sets the tone for your school. Your energy sets the tone for your team. And your staff is watching you. You're modeling for them. And so if you're exhausted and run down and short-tempered and cynical and chaotic and frantic and running yourself into the ground and not taking care of yourself, then that's what we're modeling for our teachers. And so you set the example that taking care of yourself at a time of year when it's most difficult to take care of yourself. Here's the thing. There's never a good time for self-care. Because I can hear what you're saying. You're like, Mark, you don't know what it's like at my school to go through the month of May. No, I don't. But I do know what it's like to go through the 100 days of May, because I did it 33 times as either a head of school or a division head at 2 different schools. And so I do know what that feels like. But I also know what it feels like to talk ourselves into that there's going to be a better time. Well, I'll rest just as soon as the school year is over. Or, well, I'll rest as soon as I'll take care of myself as soon as I've got teacher in-service planned. And then the school year starts and, well, I'll take care of myself when back to school night is over. Or I'll take care of myself on winter break. We always kick the can down the road. We always figure that we're going to have more time to take care of ourselves after this next thing, and that never happens. And so I kind of want you to suspend your disbelief, and I want you to think about what's possible when it comes to a couple of things here and there that I'll get to in a moment when it comes to managing your energy at this time of year. So I want you to then think about, this is number 2 that I have in my notes here underneath key number 1, energy management, is I want you to protect your energy like it matters, because it does. And so, this time of year can really drain us physically, emotionally. And so I'm going to tell you some things that you already know. But sleep is at the center. Sleep and drinking water are at the center of almost all of this. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. You already know that. But I will say that when I'm all wound up because I just got home late from a concert or a banquet, that it kind of takes time to wind down and go to sleep, we can make a lot of excuses. I'm not saying that it's going to work every night, but we have to try to prioritize our sleep, prioritize drinking water, and try to be more intentional about what time we leave at the end of the day. And I can hear what you're saying. You're like, yeah, right. I've got so many evening events. I'm not leaving. I'm staying at the school from dismissal time until the time that that event starts. And then I'm at the event. Okay. Then I have a question for you. How are you using the time between dismissal and the beginning of that event? You're doing what I did. You're doing what most of us do, and that is that you're like, work. I get it. But in that time between when school ends, I just want you to think about this for a minute, okay? It isn't going to happen unless you think about it. I want you to think about this for a second. There's an event, an evening event at the school. The school day ends. You're going to stay through. Usually this time of year, even in the Northeast and the Midwest, the weather is getting better. For you to take a walk around the campus outside for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, at some point between dismissal time and the start of that event. Fresh air, move your body a little bit, change the scenery from the inside of your office. Just want you to think differently about what does energy management mean. You know, it could be a small pocket of white space. You've heard me talk before about claiming white space on your calendar. It's trying to limit unnecessary meetings and also trying not to overcommit to events that you don't need to attend. And I get it. If you're a smaller school and you're the head of school, you're probably attending every single event. But if you're a division head or if you're at a bigger school, you know, you have to ask yourself, do I need to be at every single event? Maybe the answer is yes, but maybe the answer is no. You don't necessarily need to be everywhere. You do need to be present where you are. But again, I'm just talking about energy management at this time of the year is key number one to having a strong finish to the school year. And to just wrap this up, I think that then we also need to do more things in the last 6 or 7 weeks of a school year that are joy-giving, that are energy-giving. We need to be intentional about going to the joy, seeing happy kids do interesting things. That's why we're doing this in the first place, but it just seems counterintuitive because this is the time of year where I'm so busy, yes, but when it comes to energy management, the thing that will actually give you energy during the day is to be at recess or to pop into a classroom or to have a informal interaction with a teacher, to be celebrating students, to make sure you're experiencing those joyful moments. And when you're at those events, which most of the events in May are celebratory, or give us a reason to celebrate the kids, whether it's a musical or a dance or a concert, like a performance type thing, or if it's a recognition thing, like a sports banquet or National Honor Society banquet. I know how hard it is to be in that space and to be present in that space and enjoy and think about those kids that are up there and think about the transformation that has taken place with those kids that you're seeing shine on that stage. But that's essential for you to have joy injected into the 100 days of May. So the big takeaway for key number one is energy management. I really believe that managing your energy is actually more important than, or as important as managing your time at this time of year. Whatever it means to you, whatever is feasible, whatever's possible, whatever you're intentional about, you can manage your energy, and that will help you to be more effective and to finish the year strong. Okay, that takes us to key number 2 for finishing this school year strong. And key number 2 is give yourself permission to facilitate. Give yourself permission to facilitate. So, let me give you something to think about. I really think that this season, this time of year, as we finish up a school year, as we try to thrive during the 100 days of May, during Maycember, that it's a season for facilitating and not for building. Because your school doesn't need you to be the same kind of leader every month of the year. During the summer, you're planning. During the teacher in service and the startup of the school year, you're inspiring, and you're helping to get the school year off to a great start by implementing all of the things that you have planned. And then there's other times of the year where you're building systems, or you're introducing change, you're casting a vision, you're raising money, you're being inspirational, or you're being motivational, or you're being strategic. There are different times of the year where your school needs different things. But right now, what I think that your school needs is for you to be a facilitator, a coordinator, a supporter, a manager of logistics, a communicator, helping things run smoothly. You're the facilitator of people and events. And that's the kind of leader that your school needs you to be right now. May isn't the time for building. May isn't the time for a new initiative or a new change. You get that. But the reason that I titled key number 2 as give yourself permission to facilitate is because I think that we need to let go of the guilt when it comes to being a facilitator. And let me explain what I mean. I think that some leaders, when you hear, some of you that are listening, when you hear me say that your school, you need to be a facilitator, give yourself permission to be a facilitator, to be the logistics person, to be the event manager, to be the manager of the situation. That some of you hear that and you think, oh, well, I'm not doing enough. I need to be more strategic right now. I need to be more visionary or inspirational. I feel like I'm just managing things, and that doesn't feel great. I get that. But I think you're viewing it through the wrong lens, because you're not, quote unquote, just managing. You're not, quote unquote, just running an event. You're not, quote unquote, just handling logistics. Because that word just implies that it's not very important, or that it's menial, or that's meaningless. But what you're doing is that you're reducing the conflict, you're reducing the stress, you're preventing chaos. You know how chaotic the last 6 weeks of school can be, with the events and the assemblies and the trips, and you still have the student discipline issues. You still have parents that are upset. You still have teachers that are stressed out, and unfortunately, sometimes this time of year, you're also having difficult meetings with teachers about whether or not you can offer them an offer letter or a contract for next year. I get it. But I'm just trying to get you to see that there's nothing wrong. It's not pejorative. It's not a criticism of yourself to be a facilitator this time of year, because that's what your school needs. And so key number 1 to have a great finish to the school year is energy management. Key number 2 is give yourself permission to facilitate. And then key number 3 is to finish with clarity. So when we think about this time of year, there's a lot going on. And when there's a lot going on, there needs to be more clarity of communications, more clarity of expectations. so that everyone's on the same page, everyone knows what to do so that they can follow through and they can do it. So my first thought under finish with clarity is to be clear about expectations. So end of year expectations can't be vague. They can't be fuzzy. And I'm not just talking about like the end when the teachers are doing their room checkout and they're doing inventory on the curriculum and they're, getting their room in the condition for the summer cleaning crew, etc. I'm not just talking about expectations around that. I'm talking about expectations around everything. If it's an expectation in your school for teachers to be in their doorway during a class change, what kind of erosion has happened with that over the course of the year? Or if it's an expectation for your teachers to be on time for their duties, which, yeah, of course it is, but has erosion taken place with that? And so, again, it's hard because when you're depleted physically, when they're tired, that, the clarity of expectations and also holding people accountable, sometimes we just don't have the energy for that. But I think that chaos thrives where there's a lack of clarity, where there's a lack of accountability. And so just like the teachers tend to tighten up their classroom procedures and reminding or rehearsing until they become routines and hold students accountable if they want to have a good finish to the year as far as getting things done and having good classroom management, I just want to get that on your radar too, is that clarity of expectations around the things that they're supposed to do is important, but also just clarity of expectations around the events. Field day, for example. How clear is it what the teachers should be doing? What about the specialists? What about teachers' aides? I think that sometimes we assume a lot of things, and assumptions are problematic in our schools in general, and they're especially problematic at this time of year. So if we want to finish with clarity, we want to be clear about expectations. And then we also want to over-communicate the important things. And so I'm not sure at your school whether you have a daily memo or a weekly memo. I'm not sure how you communicate things. I'll go back to field day for a minute. But it should be that with field day, there's a way. Think about it. The teachers are out on the field. There should be a way that on their phone that they can tap, let's say, a link in the daily memo or the weekly memo. And there's the diagram, there's the schedule, the rotation schedule, the list of who's supposed to be where, when, what students are helping with that station. So if it's your PE teacher or your athletic director or whoever it is that's in charge of field day, then there's the ability for the teachers, I said, over-communicate the important things. Dates, deadlines, charts, rehearsal schedules, responsibilities. We can't assume that people remember, and we also can't expect our teachers to go on a scavenger hunt for this information in their email inbox. That's super frustrating, and then you're going to have teachers who don't know what's going on, even well-intentioned teachers. And so I'm a big believer all year long, but especially during this time of year, from a clarity and communication standpoint, I believe that your daily memo or weekly memo should be a one-stop shop for all of this important information. And if they can click on this link, and there's the rehearsal schedule for the first grade and fifth grade combined spring concert, or there's the early dismissal schedule for spring sports. Or there's let's say your school goes up to 8th grade. At some point, those 8th graders are going to probably miss a class to rehearse for graduation. When and where are those things kept, that information kept, and how accessible is it, and how clear is it? Because you need to obsess about the accuracy of that information, because that reduces the chaos. It allows people to know what's going on, reduces their frustration, and it's just, in my opinion, it's the grease that lubricates the machinery of the 100 Days of May, is to have easy access to precise information. And then the third thing underneath finish with clarity is to reduce decision fatigue. When we're tired, we don't make very good decisions. I think that's one of the reasons that what's for dinner is such a argument starter in our relationships, is because of decision fatigue and because of physical fatigue. We just can't make another decision at that time of day. And so we need to make decisions for our teachers when appropriate. And at this time of year, in my experience, and maybe this has been your experience too, at this time of year when so much stuff is going on and the school year is winding down, sometimes our teachers want us as leaders to be a little less collaborative and a little more of just tell me what you need. Just tell me where I need to be. Just tell me what you need me to do. And so, yes, you want to be collaborative earlier in the school year when it comes to, this new curriculum in math, or when it comes to input about this tweak to the schedule for next year. You want input, you want to discuss it, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not saying you go around like a tyrant and point at people and say, do it because I said so. But I am saying that when people are tired, they're pretty happy to not have to make another decision. And so if we pivot a little bit from being super collaborative to being a little more of just telling people what you need from them, putting out a schedule, find out where you're supposed to be, and then I trust you're all adults and you're professionals, and so you'll be there. Sometimes that works a lot better during the last 6 weeks of the school year. And I want you to think about it this way. You can give your teachers a gift at this time of year. You can give them the gift of simplicity. You can give them a gift of clarity. It's like you're giving them a gift. You're gift wrapping clarity and simplicity, and you're handing it to them, and they don't realize how much they need it until they don't have it. And so, again, this time of year is crazy busy. I get it. But I believe strongly that the 3 keys to having a strong finish to your school year is key number 1, energy management, where we're going to try to set the example. We're going to try to get some sleep, maybe take a walk between the dismissal time and the time of the event, and we're going to go to the joy so that can fill us up and give us some energy. And key number 2 is give yourself permission to facilitate. And facilitate is not a dirty word. It's not a bad word. It doesn't mean that you're not giving an honest day's work. There's a season for facilitating where you're not building or inspiring or, just have a strong finish to the year by being a manager of logistics, making sure that these things run smoothly, keeping everybody safe, and repeat. And kind of let go of the guilt about that. You don't have to feel guilty about that. That's what your school needs. A smooth finish to the school year is great leadership. That's the kind of leader that they need you to be right now. And then key number 3 is to finish with clarity, with clear expectations, with easy access to the schedules and the diagrams and the field trip and all of the things, and to maybe shift a little from being super collaborative to just being clear about what you need from people and give them that gift of simplicity and clarity at this time of the year. And I like to finish every episode with a call to action. Your call to action is this week, pick one way that you can better manage your energy level and then start doing that thing. One thing you can do to better manage your energy level and start doing it. And then a quick reminder, I do have one coaching spot open right now. I can help you close the gap between the life that you have and the life that you want. Shoot me an email at mark.o.minkus@gmail.com or go to theprivateschoolleader.com/coaching. And then a reminder that the 7 steps to having successful meetings with upset parents is free for you at theprivateschoolleader.com/meeting. And the show notes for today's episode are at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 183. And if you got value from today's episode, please share the link to the podcast with another leader that you know or a rising leader at your school. And I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I just want to say how much I appreciate you and the amazing hard work that you're doing at your school for those lucky kids and those lucky teachers. Thank you so much for taking some of your precious time to join me here today. And I'll see you next time right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.